Welcome to the Rescom podcast, your go-to source for insights on industry trends, seamless customer experiences, and revenue growth across airports, parking operations, and travel hubs. Each episode, we break down what's shaping the industry, deep dive into the technology driving change, and share real-world insights to help you grow.
Welcome to today's episode. My name is Sarah Marks. I'm the Director of Communications here at Rescom. We are talking to Vidushi Sharma and Dina de Borbon about all things data. Let's get started. So we've already seen some really strong data points in Q1 this year, and Vidushi as a data analyst and Dina as our revenue manager. I just wanted to have a chat with you guys about what the data shows and what trends we can see and what people can make out of them. So thank you very much for joining.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So Vidushi, I'm not a data person. So can you just let me know, what does a data analyst do?
Now, I would counter that, first of all, for anyone who says I'm not a data person. I think you are. I think anyone involved in any stream of business understands we call them things like KPIs, or we're doing calculations, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter what we call them specifically. You know how to measure performance. You know what looks good, what doesn't look good, whatever stream of business you're in. So my role as a data analyst, like I said, is to define these things, define the metrics, define the trends, and guide anyone who either, whether you know the business well, whether you're coming into something new with a fresh set of eyes, I would be there to analyze all the trends, analyze all the metrics that we've defined, and give you performance metrics that you can reliably build your reports on, build your business on, and ideally take future decisions on.
Okay, I've been told I am a data person.
Not at all. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And Dina, same question to you, to someone who might not understand or know what revenue management is. What does a revenue manager do?
So actually, if you Google revenue management, the answer is selling the right price at the right time to the right person. So I think for the most part, the basics are pretty easy. If you see demand is high, raise the price. If demand is low, lower the price. But then sometimes you get to a little more complicated situations where, if willingness to pay is really high, even if demand isn't that high, you still need to keep the price high. So, that's basically what revenue management is. It's just knowing what people are buying and when they're buying it.
Oh, that's awesome. So in a way then, Vidushi and Dina, you work quite closely together, because Vidushi, you look at the data, make sure that the data is sound, that it all shows what it needs to show. And then Dina, you take that data and provide advice on what pricing should be, depending on the trends you see.
Absolutely. Yeah, we work very close together. She helps sort the data for me, and then I interpret it.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent. So we released data trends from like February and January and February. I wrote the story. I should know this. And there was some really interesting stats that were coming out. So I'm just going to call out a few just to get us started and then build on it. And if you have got any like extra stuff you want to share, super happy for you to also share that, obviously. So the nice thing about really the data Rescom holds is that we have got access to a global pool of clients. So we have a huge data set we can see trends with, huge volumes in different areas. And it really gives us the opportunity, I think, to drill down on general trends as well as really specific localized one. And as a marketer, that's where I come in and I get a bit excited about it, because obviously a marketer it really complements your guys' roles, because it's really important for me to understand how my stuff is performing. But then also, if there's a certain product that needs a push, marketing would come in and create a campaign and push that product or introduce a new product and sort of help guide the traffic to the site. For example, we saw in Jan-Feb, Thursdays and Fridays, there was a huge 50% jump in bookings. And then we also saw that now over 60% of bookings were made within 5 days of arrival, so 5 days of entry. We also had that 3-day stays tend to still dominate the data, so shorter trips, be it business or maybe a weekend away. And then we also found out like there were some real strong key conversion times, which were around like 7 to 11 a.m., 1 p.m. and 6 to 7 p.m. So obviously taking that into context, like, is there anything else or is there anything additional that stands out to you? And how would you, are you expecting to see these trends, like in your experiences? Like, are these trends something that has actually been stable before the 2025
all
as well?
All these stats that you've mentioned, as a marketer, you yourself, like you said, not a data person, but you understand them and you know they're important. Why they're important? They tell us everything we need to know about customer behavior. So when you come in as a marketing professional and I give you, okay, these are the stats, these are our trends. Like I said, it could be, we're discussing marketing right now, it could be any other sphere, but you can use all this information. You know how your customers are behaving. You know that they're, let's say, looking at 3-day in advance at most. That's, the segment that you want to capture through whatever strategies you want to put in place based on that. You know that the certain duration is a peak of booking. So that's something you can capitalize on as well. So all these stats, like you said, it sounds like a lot of numbers and a lot of things, but put together, again, that's where, as a data analyst, I come in, and with revenue, Dina would come in, putting that story together and giving you, hey, this is what people are doing and this is what you can do, and maximize revenue based on all these different data points and behaviors we have. So putting that into a cohesive story, which you pretty much just did when you described all those little behaviors, that I think is the key to really leveraging all these, what can seem like a sea of numbers and a sea of stats. But yeah, it can really be something quite logical and quite prescriptive in what you want to do with your business going forward. And in terms of how consistent these trends are, typically we do see that the numbers that we've described here in Q1, what we've seen it depends on scale of business as well, but for mid to large scale businesses, yes, these are pretty consistent trends.
Awesome. So Vidushi, how do you approach identifying meaningful trends in the sea of these daily interactions you just described? Like, how does that even work? Because it feels to me like a little bit like it's a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
But I think, how does it work?
It can feel like that, but I think the first starting point for all of us should be, when we're looking at any information or data, what is our problem statement? If we have a problem statement, or if we have an action point that we know we want to achieve or do, what is that? Identifying that is the first step, I think. Once we have that in place, we have all this, like I said, wealth of information and data just within our systems. I genuinely don't have a count of how many metrics we have. That's how much information we've got. But once we have a problem statement, we know that, if we're talking about revenue, everything related to revenue, we've got all these metrics listed out. Let's one by one start looking at them, looking at the straight up numbers, and then looking at trends over time. I think that's also crucial. So we have, the way we describe trends can be over week on week, it can be year on year. We even look at, because in customer patterns, day of the week is very, very important, which I think you mentioned, one of the Thursday, Friday stats. Look at all of these. So around revenue, okay, we want to maximize, and then we look at all of these stats, compare across time periods, build a story based on that. Now that we have a story across time periods, what's happening, we can use these numbers to push the stat where we want it to go in the forward coming time periods. Does that make sense? So again, we're looking at beyond day 4. So we have various metrics.
Mm-hmm. It does, actually. Thank you. Yeah. So Dina, from a revenue point of view, what does the rise in last minute bookings mean for planning and pricing, given that actually it seems that a large amount of bookings happen in that sort of, I now have to check the stat.
Yeah, in this short lead time period.
Yes. What was it? It was like within 5 days. That's really short, especially
within 5 days. Generally, it's around 20% of bookings come in lead day 1 and 0. So really a lot of last minute bookings. So it could represent a challenge in forecasting, since people do so many last minute bookings. Then again, if you're used to these kind of trends, you can look at previous days and see what the booking trend there was, and you can compare and contrast. Also, when you're familiar with different industries, so, when people are traveling, what are they traveling for? So hotels, generally people book months in advance. Flights, they can book months or years in advance. And then what is the travel season? Is it spring break? Is it Christmas? October, November is peak travel time for corporates. And so that can really give you a very good idea of who's traveling, what they're traveling for. And that can really help you forecast in that situation.
Oh, right. Okay. So you actually need to build a far wider net of insights. So just that one insight is not enough. You actually have to attach the context to it.
Yeah, it's impossible to do anything without comparison. So I can look at general lead times now and say, okay, people are booking 2 days in advance. Well, how did they book a year ago? How did they book 2 years ago? How did they book last month, last week?
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. I'm learning lots. I love this. Looks like we've run out of time for today. Join us next time for part 2.
That's it for this episode of the Rescom podcast. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about how Rescom helps airports, parking operators, and travel hubs improve services and grow revenue, visit rescom.com. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time.